There is a particular kind of dizziness you know well. It's not the feeling of a room spinning, but of a story spinning. A sense of déjà vu for a place you swore to yourself you would never visit again. You find yourself on a familiar road, recognizing the scenery of a mistake you promised you had learned from. And a heavy sigh escapes you, the sound of a conclusion you didn't choose, arriving right on schedule. That it might be a pattern in your relationships, the same kind of person leading to the same kind of heartbreak. It could be a cycle in your career, where your best efforts somehow lead you back to the same feeling of being stuck. It's the abandoned project, the broken resolution, the same argument with a different face. You are an intelligent person. You are self-aware. You have stood in front of the mirror and declared with absolute, unwavering sincerity, never again. You've made the plans, you've set the goals, you've visualized the success, and yet, here you are. It feels as though you are two different people. There is the one who designs the future, the architect of a new life, drawing up blueprints for happiness and success. And then there is the builder, a mysterious and silent contractor who shows up and, ignoring your new plans completely, reconstructs the same old house you were trying to escape. This is more than just frustrating. It is profoundly bewildering. It undermines your faith in your own will. We are taught that our conscious will is king, that with enough grit and determination, we can steer our lives in any direction we choose. So when we find ourselves shipwrecked on the exact same shore for the 10th time, we assume the fault lies in our effort, our character, our fundamental worth. We believe we are flawed, broken, or secretly in love with our own misery. If we truly wanted to change, we would have by now, right? This painful loop feels less like a series of bad choices and more like a script you are forced to read from. You know all the lines, you despise the ending, but some hidden part of you ensures the performance goes on. The question that hangs in the air after the curtain falls on the same tragic scene isn't just, why does this keep happening to me? It's, if I am not the one choosing this, who is? That final question, if I am not choosing this, who is the beginning of all real wisdom. We usually swat it away with familiar self-blaming answers. We say it's our lack of discipline, our laziness, our fundamentally broken character. But you know, deep down, that these labels don't quite capture the power of the force you are up against. This isn't a simple failure of effort. This feels like being guided by another will entirely. The philosopher Alan Watts loved this kind of human paradox. He saw that we, in the modern world, have been taught to identify ourselves almost exclusively with our conscious attention. The voice in our head that thinks, plans, and worries. We have decided that this small, noisy part of us is the captain of the ship. We believe this thinking, speaking ego is the real me. And so we are constantly bewildered when the ship doesn't go where the captain wants it to. Watts would invite us to consider that our conscious ego is not the captain at all. It is more like the spokesperson for a vast, ancient, and powerful corporation. The spokesperson stands at a podium and makes sincere pronouncements about the company's new noble direction. But the entire company, the silent board of directors, in the nervous system, the deep-seated traditions in our memory, the foundational desires of the organism itself, is the true entity. And this total organism has its own agenda, its own needs, and its own profound intelligence. Here is the radical idea that Watts would present. The repeating patterns in your life are not evidence of your conscious will failing. They are the undeniable, unmistakable evidence of your total self succeeding. On some deep, unconscious level, you are getting exactly what you truly want. That familiar relationship, that cycle of procrastination, that feeling of being stuck is a destination your total organism is expertly navigating toward, again and again. The pattern is not a flaw in the system. The system is running its program perfectly. The life you currently have is a perfect expression of what you as a whole being, are asking for. The frustration and despair you feel is simply the spokesperson, being shocked that the company isn't following the latest press release. So the first step to freedom is to stop blaming the spokesperson. You are not weak or broken. A much larger, more powerful part of you is simply winning the internal argument. The task then is not to fight harder. It is to finally turn around and get acquainted with this other will. To ask with genuine curiosity why it so expertly and relentlessly keeps leading you home. To begin this dialogue with your deeper self, you must first understand its language. The unconscious does not speak in words or logical arguments. It speaks in feelings, in urges, in symbols, and in the raw, undeniable reality of your life. The repeating pattern is a message. To fight the pattern is to shout over the messenger before you've heard the news. So let's listen. What is it actually trying to say? The first and most fundamental motivation of your total organism is safety. Your conscious mind may dream of thrilling new loves, soaring career success, or profound creative breakthroughs. But your nervous system, the ancient intelligence in your body, has a much simpler goal: to see the next sunrise. And to the nervous system, the known is always safer than the unknown. Even a known pain is safer than an unknown pleasure. The pattern you are stuck in, no matter how miserable it makes your conscious ego, is a territory you have successfully survived before. Your new, desired life? That is uncharted land, filled with unpredictable dangers. So when you get close to a real breakthrough, healthy relationship, a major success, the organism sounds an alarm. It skillfully navigates you back to the familiar discomfort of the old pattern. This is not self-sabotage. It is self-preservation. You are retreating to the safety of a prison cell whose every crack and shadow you know by heart. Secondly, the unconscious is often trying to heal an old wound. It does not experience time in a linear way. The hurt, the neglect, or the fear from your childhood is not a distant memory for your organism. It is a living reality. And so it will unconsciously steer you into situations that replicate the original scene of the crime. It is like a director obsessed with a single flawed scene from a movie. It keeps reshooting it, hiring new actors to play the old roles: the distant parent, the critical authority figure, the unreliable partner. It is not doing this to torture you. It is doing this with a desperate, creative hope that this time, the ending will be different. That this time, you will get the love you were denied, win the approval you craved, or finally reclaim the power you lost. The repeating pattern is not a sign that you are doomed. It is a sign that a part of you is trying, with all its might, to make you whole. This leads to the most challenging and most liberating piece of the puzzle. Alan Watts would ask you to look squarely at the pattern and ask the forbidden question: what is the secret payoff? What benefit does this problem provide that you are pretending you don't want? Your conscious mind will scream in protest: there is no benefit, I hate this. But the total organism is not interested in your ideals. It is interested in what works. And the pattern, in its own strange logic, is working. Perhaps the cycle of financial struggle protects you from the terrifying visibility and responsibility of true success. Perhaps the familiar drama of a chaotic relationship saves you from the quiet intimacy you fear even more. Perhaps being stuck gives you a solid and stable identity as the one who struggles, which feels more real than the boundless, undefined identity of someone who might actually fly. Your life is a perfect ecosystem, and the pattern is not an invasive weed. It is a native plant that serves a hidden function. It may be providing shade for something very tender and fragile. It may be providing thorny protection. It is a solution, but it is a solution to a problem your conscious mind has refused to acknowledge. Until you can look this secret payoff in the eye with unflinching honesty, you will remain a loyal and mystified victim of its consequences. So how do you change? You stop fighting the war between your conscious will and your unconscious. Self is a civil war, and you are the battlefield. The only way to peace is to declare a truce. This is a process of making the unconscious conscious. It is the work of turning the light of gentle, non-judgmental awareness onto these hidden motives. It is learning to listen to your life as if it were a wise teacher. When you feel the gravitational pull of the old pattern, you don't resist with brute force. You pause. You get curious. You ask it, "Hello, old friend. I see you are here. What are you trying to protect me from right now? What is the fear? What is the story you are telling me?" You learn to read the language of your own body. The knot in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders, the sudden wave of fatigue, these are not random malfunctions. These are communications from your total self. This is not a quick fix. This is the slow, patient, and compassionate work of becoming an archaeologist of your own soul, digging for the truth not with a hammer, but with a soft brush. It is the process of befriending the very force you saw as your enemy, and discovering it was only ever a lost and forgotten part of yourself trying to get your attention. And so we arrive at a place of profound clarity. Your life, with all its frustrating loops and seemingly senseless patterns, has not been a mistake. It has been a message written in a language you were not taught to read. The very things you judged as your greatest failures, your weaknesses, your acts of self-sabotage, your inability to change were, in fact, the expressions of a deep, powerful, and fiercely protective intelligence. A part of you was not trying to ruin your life. It was trying in the only way it knew how to save it. With this understanding, you can finally lay down your arms. This is the permission to stop the brutal civil war you have been waging against yourself. You can forgive yourself for not being stronger, for not having more willpower, for all the broken promises made in the mirror. You were never fighting an enemy. You were fighting a lost part of your own being. You were a house divided, and the exhaustion you feel is the echo of that pointless, internal battle. Feel this shift in your own body. The dizziness of the repeating story begins to subside. The feeling of being on a runaway carousel, doomed to pass the same scenery again and again, is replaced by a sense of stillness. You are standing on solid ground. The heavy sigh of resignation becomes a deep breath of relief. You are no longer the bewildered victim of a mysterious curse. You are the one who has finally decoded the message. You are the one who understands. What do you do now? How do you stop the pattern? This is the beautiful secret. The stopping begins with the seeing. The pattern was a symptom of the inner war. It was a cry for attention from a part of you that felt ignored, unheard, and misunderstood. When you meet this part with curiosity instead of contempt, when you offer it understanding instead of resistance, its need to scream through destructive behavior begins to soften. You don't make the change happen through force. The change happens through you, because you are no longer divided. The life you have is no longer a problem to be solved, but a curriculum to be studied. You continue to listen, to watch, to treat your own actions and impulses with a newfound respect. You are not trying to control your unconscious will. You are learning to dance with it. You are integrating the spokesperson with the silent wisdom of the entire corporation. And in this integration, you find a wholeness that was never possible when you were at war. You are no longer broken. You are simply, for the first time, complete. This is the great liberation Alan Watts pointed to. Freedom is not a change in your circumstances, but a change in your perspective. It is the realization that you were never truly stuck. You were only ever on a journey home to yourself. And it leaves us with this profound and powerful paradox. To truly change your life, you must first find the courage to fully agree with it, exactly as it is.